kept you trying to achieve and want to do more. And I always tell people that my why was always my mother, right? I had seen growing up the light go out of her eyes in that domestic violence situation, and how her self-esteem has changed. She had changed as a woman being in a relationship, and I did not. I vowed that I would not be the man to disappoint her. She had already been disappointed enough.
We're back with one more down. Today we have East Cleveland Shaw High's finest, Marty Williams, cornerback, wingback, class of 1991 for the Big Red, the older guard at Shaw. They refer to them as the Mighty Mighty Cardinals. Marty was my uh, mentor, roommate, teammate at Edinboro University of Pennsylvania. He was a outstanding defensive back, a guy that showed me how to uh, be a college football player and what it means to lead. We had a lot of great days together, a lot of good games, and a lot of great memories and funny times in and outside of the locker room and on and off of the
Right.
field.
Right.
Um, I'm so glad to finally get you on here and get a chance to get a little more in depth with you about who you are and what your foundational beginnings are. I'm sure the people that know you and I will enjoy this, and I hope that your friends and loved ones and wider network of coworkers and colleagues get the same benefit that I will. So thank you in advance for joining me today.
No problem, man. I think we've been trying to work on this for 2 years. Seemed like so.
Absolutely.
I'm able to be on, man. I definitely appreciate you asking me.
No doubt, I think a person like you represents the values of what we try to do here on this platform, and that's just uh, bring highlight and attention to the trajectory of young men transition into adult men and the path that team sports takes you down. So, as we get into this, we generally start getting a feel of who you are uh, before the athletic identity. So, if you would like to begin with your foundational beginnings of who your parents are, and
Hmm.
then we'll just progress into the conversation at hand.
Well, of course, and a lot of people who may know me a little bit know that born in Alabama, uh, uh, single mom. Uh, Started out in Bellamy, Alabama, which is a real rural area in Alabama. Um, Mom fell in love, and we eventually ended up moving to Detroit for a year or two, and then ended up moving to Cleveland, where I started my whole life journey in Cleveland.
A transition like that from the South coming north to two industrial cities, Detroit and Cleveland. That transition for you, is there some culture shock that takes place leaving the comfort of Alabama and then finding yourself in Detroit?
Yeah, you do. You're around all of your relatives. Everybody was down, cousins, like friends, everyone, my uncles, my entire family was in Alabama, and to move from Alabama to Detroit was a huge shift. I had a twang in my voice, and people couldn't understand what I was saying at the time. And you have to adjust, right? You have to adjust to a new environment, and everything was a lot faster, which was totally different from where I grew up at.
Now, what age is this for you when that transition takes place?
I was around 7 years old. Living in Alabama, it was how can I say, a good and bad up, bad time before moving to Alabama. I mean, moving to Detroit. But I was about 7 years old when we started moving up this way.
We had a pre-conversation the other night, and you kind of started to get into the dynamics of that move. Um, you know, you explained that you are your mom's only child,
Yep, I'm her only child. My dad's second child, well, oldest son.
and for you making that move as the third person in that group, Can you tell me about some of that initial experience? Kind of getting settled and acclimated in Detroit. What is life like for you in terms of finding new peers? What's home life like for you? What is it like
Mhm.
navigating the neighborhoods? And then, as you explain that, can you tell me about some of that transition from Detroit to East Cleveland?
Cleveland. Well, actually, it was Cleveland before moving to East Cleveland. Like I said, my mom fell in love with a truck driver who was traveling around the country, and he decided to move us to Detroit because his brother lived up there, and it was different because you had a house full of people you wasn't aware of, didn't know anyone there, and you're trying to figure out uh, if you're loved, what's the purpose of you being here. It's a blur, to be honest with you. That year in Detroit was a blur. I remember just hanging out with some of the kids, but I don't really remember a lot of being there. But I definitely remember when we left there and we moved to Cleveland, and that was a whole different experience.
So if I'm tracking this is like the late 70s, beginning part of 80 that you're making this transition. And then, I know for me, if I can put myself into the same time period, uh, I think things were a lot more communal. People looked out for each other a little bit more in that day and age than they kind of do now. Sometimes, you move into a new neighborhood in modern times and you feel like you're on an island, and in some ways may prefer it that way. But
Mhm.
if I'm thinking about the 70s and early 80s, being a new kid in school, being a new kid in the neighborhood, I can imagine how you navigate that and find your place in the pecking order. What is some of that experience for you in terms of adjusting and adapting to these new peers once you get to Cleveland?
I think before really navigating the people in my community, I had to navigate the people in my home. And, uh, you know, when we moved to Cleveland, like I said before, mom, um, fell in love with this, uh, uh, my stepdad, I would say. And, dealing with the violence in the household was very traumatic. Uh, and so I had to navigate that environment before really having to deal with uh, dealing with the kids in the community. I felt like if I could deal with the trauma and issues that I was dealing with in my home from him, that I navigating the community was easy. Uh, so yeah, that was my uh, first thing that I had to navigate when I got to Cleveland.
And can you elaborate a little bit more in terms of leaving your base and your family back in Alabama, where you probably had extended allies, were insulated a little bit more, from the mindset and the perspective of a mature man. What does that look like? What does Marty Williams look like to you from this vantage point when you're looking back and that young guy is figuring out, um, you know, when to move, how to move,
Hmm.
how to stay out of harm's way, and then just the impact of some of what you may have witnessed in that environment.
Hmm. Uh, so when we Alabama was home. It was comfort. It was love. It was everything you would envision of a community or a family environment. And when you get removed from that environment and it's you feel alone, you're trying to figure out the world, and the people that help supposed to be helping you figure out that world, your mom and your dad, is there's issues there. within that household with like I said before, a lot of domestic violence that we dealt with, what I dealt with in that home. Um, but the dynamics of that was um, I was able to uh, find something that I could gravitate towards. Um, Even though my stepdad was violent and abusive, there were some positive things that there was some pros and cons to who he was as a man, and me looking up at him as a man, trying to figure out um, what it is, what my identity is going to be. I knew that I was not going to be putting my hands on anyone, right? But in terms of the positives, uh, he provided structure in my home. He provided discipline in my home. Uh, Always wasn't, definitely wasn't always welcome, but it was structure and discipline. You had rules and regulations you had to follow in that home. Uh, and he got me into sports, from track and field to football to boxing to you name it, and he would push me in those sports. I mean, you're talking about a 7, 8 year old kid being pushed to perform, and it was hard at the beginning, but it became when I left that environment from him and went out into the community to play sports with everyone else. Uh, I was able to thrive, right? Because I wasn't afraid of getting hit. I wasn't afraid of any of the issues that was taking place in the community because, like I said before, the toughest thing that I had to deal with was the issues in my home. Anything outside of that uh, was was I'm not going to say easy, but it was manageable, right? And I think from probably 8 years old till I was probably 12 years old, uh, dealing with a lot of trauma that was taking place in my household. Um, my my safe haven was sports. I gravitated to sports. It allowed me to uh, take out my anger. Say that as a kid I couldn't communicate it. My anger, my anxiety, the issues that I might have had as a young kid. The way that I addressed that was through sports. And when I found out that I was good at it, it became everything to me. It was my, like I said, my safe haven. Um, and I will never forget. Um, I can tell you specifically um, one particular day before we ended up moving to East Cleveland. But I'll never forget. I was in the sixth grade. Like I said, a lot of violence taking place in the household. Mom used to work all the time. Dad was in and out of employment, and I'll never forget that mom working nights. I'm at home. He's supposed to be watching me at night, and he comes busting in the house, busting in the house. Comes into my bedroom, and he says, he's like, if anyone knocks at the door, tell them I've been here all night. I didn't know anything. I'm 11 years old, whatever. Uh, 5 minutes later, you hear banging at the door. Boom, 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 boom. Open the door. He goes and open the door. I'm in my bedroom, um, and it's the police. And it's like, where's the gun? Where's the gun? I know you got it. He was like, I don't. I've been here all night. I've been here all night. Mind you, I told you, I've been dealing with a lot of craziness taking place in this household. Mom is at work, and he's coming in the house, and he's sweating, and and I don't know what's going on. And so he so what they do is they search the house, and what he did was when he told me that tell them that no one is home, that I've been here all night. He put the gun under my bed, right? So they're searching the house and couldn't find anything but me I pointed to it's right there, and grabbed him and took him to jail, right? And so when I say and come to find out, he was ended up killing another man before he came to the house. Ended up getting 25 years to life. So I always say and then of course after that, and leaving the household, we ended up moving to East Cleveland. But people ask me like, wasn't you happy that he left your household? I say yes and no. Yes, I have witnessed a lot. Yes, I had, experienced things that a kid probably should never have to go through, right? Uh, but again, like I said earlier, uh, the, the 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 negative was the violence, and the seeing your mom go from this vibrant woman uh, to this person who doesn't. Uh, Self confidence is gone. You can see the stress and the anxiety on her face. You can see the disappointment and the fear on her face. Uh, you could see all of those things, and how he had beat her down so much to where uh, she had no confidence in herself. And so that was the positive, that he's not in my household no more, and I can get my mother back, right? But the negative piece of it is that now you have the only man that you've known all your years. The discipline and the structure that he's provided in your household is pretty much gone. Why? Because your mom, now she's working at night, and there's no other man around you. Mind you, remember, all of my family is in Alabama, and there's no other man that you can gravitate to be able to help guide you, regardless of how negative it was. That was a male figure in my life that um, provided structure in my life. And so, without having that figure in my home, I had to figure it out. And with a mom working uh, 11 to 7, pretty much 7 days a week, I was 12 years old trying to figure it out. And now we're moving to East Cleveland. um, and moving there and navigating that community without having a male figure, uh, which led me to do what? To hang out in the community, learn from my peers, and I did what they did. If they got into fights, they got into stuff. I got into stuff, trying to figure out what it is as a 12-year-old it means to be uh, trying to be a man. Uh, and yeah, yeah. So once he was gone, I still had to navigate navigate the world uh, somewhat on my own, because mom would just think about high school. Mom working nights. She working 11 to 7. By the time she gets off work, um, gets home around 8 o'clock, I'm going to school. I go to school if I'm in any sports. That means I'm not getting home at 6 o'clock. I get home, mom is asleep, right? So I have to feed myself and take care of myself. And by the time I'm going to sleep, she's waking up to get ready for school. And you're talking about this my entire junior 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 school years and in high school. That's what it was. I was learning to navigate the world uh, on my own, but with supports from friends, because all my family was in Alabama.
You say some interesting things in terms of parallels and dichotomy. The aggressiveness, the having to be on your toes, depending on the mood and the temperament of the house. Um, being pushed at a young age to perform and be aggressive and do things with intensity. Uh, as you stated, it translates over into uh, sports where you need that aggression, you need that brute strength to participate. Um, you know, when you start to play these formal activities, and then as it ramps up and gets a little bit more um, uh, not intense, but it just means more in terms of moving from the youth levels to the high school levels, and then ultimately, to that college level. When you start participating, especially as a football player, uh, what is your main objective if you're looking back, with your first entries into that high school football experience?
Mm. My main objective was, well, like I said, having a lot of trauma. I didn't have no outlet. There was no therapist talking to me about how I was feeling. I couldn't communicate how I was feeling. It was just building up inside, and I had to release it somehow, or I felt like I would probably explode. And so, being uh, able to play football and as well as wrestling at that time uh, allowed me to be able to get out my frustration, allowed me to get out that anger that I had, and it helped. It became my therapy. It became the way that I dealt with the internal things that I was dealing with, and so the the more I played, the better I felt. The more I got an opportunity to hit someone, the better I felt. I felt and like I felt like football was the greatest thing in the world. You can hit a person as hard as you want and don't go to jail. Like, are you serious? And so, Ryan, I became really popular playing street ball before I started playing organized ball, where I was say it, but was hurting people on the streets because I just enjoyed it so much. But it was for me. It was therapy, man. It was my release. And so college, I wasn't thinking about college like that. I was thinking about how can I heal myself, and this was the only way that I felt like I could do that actually during that period of time.
Like, I'm kind of thinking and imagining as you kind of paint this picture. We're both primarily defensive guys. I don't think anyone that would accuse us of being offensive stars during our younger days.
No, no,
But when you combine that atmosphere of trauma, violence, and then you've kind of flipped the switch into being a more structured person with your academics, uh, being disciplined to remain eligible and be able to play. How does the entry of coaches yelling or being critical of you, and then having teammates maybe question what you're doing as far as technique or what your responsibility was on the play, how does that manifest itself in the backdrop of some of that um, experience that you have in your background? And I'm not sure if this is the case, but I would imagine that you may have kept some of what was happening within the house um, secret and separate from the people that you're interacting with, so they may not understood why you were um, behaving or approaching the game
angry.
in a certain manner.
Right, right. Well, I tell you this, and I think we talked about this. I have a lot of close friends, right, that grew up with that. We've been hanging for years. They would see this and probably would be shocked that this that I'm sharing this information. So I kept everything in. They just saw this aggressive kid in just being aggressive, not realizing where it was coming from. So a lot of people would be shocked hearing me tell these stories because I haven't shared it. But it's you, Ron, and I think other people need to hear it because I'm not the only person who've had these experiences. But I'm hoping that people can realize that they're not in this space by themselves. And yes, I've had these issues, and but I've done a lot of work over my years put myself in a better space. But at the time, I felt like I needed that anger and that frustration to play sports. I felt like uh, I needed sports in order to be able to start my healing process in a way.
I would love to circle back to some of the psychology that's related to some of the things that we've discussed so far. But you know, I kind of want to move into this territory when we're talking about the Shaw Cardinals. Being Edinboro guys, I realize now that there were probably more Shaw people at our school and college than any other school up there, and that's including in the state of Pennsylvania. When I get there, Mario Houston is there, you're there, Dean Doss ends up coming there, Quentin Werebay is there,
Hmm.
and I don't think at the time I ever really paid attention to just how wide you guys' network was up there. But
Oh, Ross was there. Anthony
oh yeah,
Ross.
Anthony Ross, and then Sean and Neville was there as well.
Yep.
So you guys had a lot of home over in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's talk a little bit about your experience at Shaw from the football lens. There's a lot of great teams that are in your era of playing, a lot of great players that are in your era of playing, and you guys did some spectacular things on the gridiron during your time there. For you, when you're entering in and maybe on the young end of things, can you describe what the team environment is like and how that looks as you're making your rise and your progression up to those varsity ranks?
I would say the environment of Shaw football, basketball, uh, it would make you think of an HBCU. We had the baddest band in the world. We had some of the best athletes that the county has seen. If you go from the time that I was in high school, from like 88 or 87 to 91, you would see uh, some great athletes. A lot of people are getting opportunities to go to college. We've rarely lost. And I think I shared with you uh, yesterday that in my 4 years of high school, I probably lost 3 games my entire high school career. In my senior year, we was the first undefeated team in Shaw history, 10-0 team in Shaw history. And so every year, from ninth grade, 10th grade, we always had a great tradition of being able to put the best athletes on the field. Um, but we had a tradition there, like most high schools, is that if you're a senior, you get an opportunity to really uh, show your skills. It was more of a senior led kind of structure we had at our school. But when you got your opportunity, they made sure they poured as much as they can into you to try to get you to wherever you want to go. And our head coach at Shaw was mental, Coach Mental, and he had connections throughout I mean, throughout the college scene, where he would get you to college. And I think you brought this up earlier. Uh, I, I think my pattern have shown over my years. I've had issues with authority in some way, right? And same thing with him. My junior year in high school, uh, I had some issues with him, right? And I'm going into my senior year, and he said, "Martin, I know you don't like me, and hell, sometimes I don't like you, but I tell you, if you do what I ask you to do, I guarantee you I can get you to college." So I straightened up somewhat, and I would do anything to do. And like I said, I love the game. I love to be able to put my hands on someone, and he would move me around. where he felt like I would be effective, and it worked. It definitely worked.
You know, uh, I saw that senior team, they went 10-0, undefeated, did
Don't
not get
don't
into
say
the
it. Don't say it.
OHSAA playoffs. And, in the landscape of what we see now, during COVID, they let everybody in at
Oh,
one
this
point.
is
Now it's like top 12, top 16,
yeah.
and we experienced the same thing. Luckily, we slid in the fourth spot
Mhm.
the last week of the season. But that line of being perfect yet viewed as not perfect enough to
Oh,
continue on. Most people, if you go through a playoff system, in a lot of ways you end up losing your last game of your career, because if you don't make it to that state championship game through a playoff system, it's usually a negative because you've lost.
yeah.
What do you think about being able to forever preserve a 10-0 unblemished season, uh, yet not knowing whether that team was powerful enough to take it all?
Very, very disappointing. Because my junior year, we was 9-0 going into our last game of the season, right? And we were going into, and our last game was playing against Lakewood High School, and they, I think their record wasn't as good as ours. We knew that if we won that game, that we were going to the playoffs. Uh, and they had two wide receivers who was deaf, right? Both of them were deaf. They couldn't hear, and they tore our secondary apart. They tore us apart, and ended up beating us with a field goal. And we just knew we was not gonna make the playoffs, but we got in, right. And our first opponent was Euclid High School, and we were playing against just Mr. Ohio, uh, Robert Smith, right? And you're talking about someone who just they played him at, he was Mr. Ohio for running back, but they played him at quarterback. He would fake one way, and then he was also all state track and field. Run back down the other side, man. They beat they beat the brakes off us. It was a game that you wish you like you. Hey, I'd rather not play, but and so you would think after that year that if you go 10-0 that you're shooing because the team that you lost to you end up winning, beat them the next year. And at the time, I think the computer points the top four get in or something like that, and I think we were either fifth or sixth. So it was a great season, but it was disappointing because we felt like we had the team to be able to play against some of the juggernauts in the community in the area, and we didn't get the opportunity to do that. So uh, I wished we. Oh man, I wish I could have saw what we would have been able to do in the playoffs, but it didn't happen. But what did happen was that we had about 6 or 7 guys get scholarship opportunities to go to college. So that was the good part. But I just wish that team would have had a shot to be in the playoffs. It just didn't happen though.
Before we transition into the Edinboro experience, in one of those early clips that we had previewed, I see the great DeAndre Houston, displaying his talent. Can you take a few moments to kind of talk about him and what his prowess was, being the brother of a teammate of ours? I'd like to kind of get a deeper understanding of, just what he was and what he meant to the Shaw High community.
Man, look, God rest his soul, man, because he passed away a couple of years ago. He had a massive heart attack. But we knew that DeAndre was special his freshman year. Like I think we was in sophomores or whatever. They put DeAndre, he's 6'2", probably I think 6'2", He's about 215 pounds, and he could run. Oh, and he could catch anything. And so, of course, us being in 10th grade, he's in the ninth grade. We're like, why is this kid playing with the varsity? They moved him up to varsity to play, and he was so smooth. He would just like even on that clip, you just see him just gliding, man. He would just glide. He was just different. And anytime he got the ball in his hand, it was like magic, man. And so I was a senior, he was a junior. Man, he dominated uh, everywhere, and to the point where I remember our coach saying, if you're not a Division I team calling to about him, don't call me. He was already his junior year. They were already touting him as one of the probably the top picks in the state, just based off of what he had done the two previous years. He hadn't even went into his senior year, and the kid he was special. And of course, me being arrogant and confident in myself, and I'm like, I don't see it. I don't see it. I'm like, let's line up. You're gonna have to show me because I don't really I see you what you're doing over there, but I need to see it over here. And so we lining up in practice, and I'm guarding him, and I'm like, oh, I got you. And they threw the ball up, and I know, Ron, I the ball was gone. We both fall to the ground. He in the end zone with the ball in his hand. I'm like, yeah, you're different. Yeah, you're different. And I mean, I got to see it firsthand, and I knew how special he was to the point where even when I got to Edinboro, I used to talk to his brother, like, "Hey man, what's your brother doing? Like, hey, can we get him up here? I'm telling you, I know he can do something." But it never materialized, man. But I would have loved to see him play on another level. Unfortunately, after uh, my senior year, he didn't play again. Yeah, he never played his senior year, unfortunately.
When just some of what you're saying and just knowing who Mario was and his approach to the game, he was obviously a person that you started alongside of prior to me getting there, and then I got to watch just how you guys maneuvered and what it meant to be a college level defensive back. My freshman year in '93. Can you tell me about like some of that early experience with Edinboro as you begin to hit the field and make your mark in that system there?
Oh wow! Of course, Brownie recruited all the defensive backs back then. It was Georgie Lou. It was of course Mario. It was Mike B. And it was Steve. Those was the four horsemen they had back there when I got there. And I just watched them guys. Right, Mario was so man. His feet was just ridiculous in terms of his ability to get off blocks, his ability to stay with any receiver. Mike B was the the general where he kind of made sure everybody was in their space. And Steve, where Steve is Steve Russell. Steve had my number, but because I was a Ronnie Lott fan, man, I wanted that number, and of course I knew I wasn't gonna get that. But of course I wanted number 4. But when I got there, man, I remember I was this kid from the hood, right, and trying to navigate this new world where I don't see a lot of me, and I'm trying to figure it out, and I'm gonna say this, and I haven't said Steve, not Steve, but Mike B and Rio uh, kept me in college, and I'll tell you why. Probably within my first 6 months of being there, they have parties, right? And I go to a party. I think it was some guys from Erie that came to the party, and they, you know, rah 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 type stuff. And I had in my mind, I said, hey, I don't care what y'all do, but you put your hands on me, I'm knocking somebody out, right? Um, People get to they fighting, and someone touched me on my shoulder, and I turned around and I swung. I didn't see who it was. I just swung, and guess who it was? The campus police. The campus police. Like everyone is fighting, but I'm the one who gets arrested and go to jail. Right? Coach Browning and all y'all, y'all don't know anything about this, but Rio and Rio and Mike B are definitely aware. I think they found out that I was being, at the police station. They knew because they was the stars of the team. They knew what happened, and they came and talked to the officer. And officer said, "Well, hey, you hit me because he was hitting me with the billy club. I hit you, um, and let me go." Man, you talking about somebody who ran to the dorm and prayed to God, like, "Oh, thank you, Lord," because I'm in my mind. I'm trying to figure out I can't go back home. Oh God, please, I can't go back home. So they I appreciate them for helping me in that situation, man. And I kind of gravitated to them. I wanted to learn as much as I possibly can because in high school I wasn't a defensive back. I was an outside linebacker who was blitzing and hitting people. I didn't learn. I had to learn how to backpedal. I had to learn how to play defensive back, and they taught me. They kind of showed me what I needed to do in terms of how to play the position. I was an athlete, so I was able to pick up pretty quick to the point where I got some burn as a freshman. In the first game I played as a freshman, I played nickel, or I think it was more like an outside linebacker kind of role, which was similar to what I did in high school. And I think it was the first or second play of the game. I'm excited, like, oh, I'm here now. I'm here, all pumped. And I think a few plays into it, I make a tackle and break my hand. And now I'm out for like 4 weeks, and they're calling me Clubber Lane and all this crazy stuff, man. But I was able to watch and learn, and they were the guys who kind of welcomed me to Edinboro. They took me under their wings, and I learned much as I possibly can from them. And then after they kind of transitioned on, it was our time then.
You know, um, how would you articulate being in this new environment with different calibers of athletes, being amongst other alpha males, and how does that tie into some of your personality and what we know now stems from a traumatic beginning? How do you view competing early on? How do you turn off and on the switch? And then at what point in your college development do you level out and become just more of a relaxed person and player?
Mm, that's a great question, Ryan. I don't know if I ever became this relaxed player. I played with an attitude, and got my entire college career. I played with an attitude, um, and I didn't really like authority figures like that, specifically men, because of you know, my growing up. Like you couldn't challenge me without me reacting or me doing something. Even with Browning, I'll tell you a story when after my graduated from college and my son ended up getting a tryout and Edinboro. I talked to Browning about him, and I remember him telling my son, was like, your dad was an asshole. And I told Browning, I was like, you're right, I was an asshole, but you know what? I was good though, Browning. I was good, and you can't deny that. He was like, you're right. So even from Browning to Elliott, who was probably the baddest defensive back coach, and he had everything. He showed you your everything. I had my run-ins with him as well, and some classic ones. To be honest with you, but I respect both of those men, and actually reached out to them and thanked them for uh, believing in me. Right, through all my immaturity and trying to figure out who I was as a man, and thanking them for giving me an opportunity. Right. To grow. They was able to see past my anger and frustration, and see that I was a good kid who just probably had some issues, and was a good athlete. So I definitely appreciated, what they poured into me while I was at the Borough. Um, and Elliot was, he took it to a whole nother level, for sure. And I definitely appreciate it for sure.
You know, you kind of uh, being split in the middle of two eras of defensive backfield groups up there. You stated earlier, your entry is with Georgie Loon, Mike Barnes, Steve Russell, Mario Houston. These are all Hall of Fame guys in Edinboro's annals. And then,
That's
as they transition out, uh, it slowly shifts over to Steve Russell is the linchpin. Marty Williams is up and coming. And then, you get this whole new group of misfits, not knows, and people
yeah,
finding themselves.
yeah.
But we experience a lot of success and
Hey,
develop our own style.
I want to I want to make sure I mention Rick Walker. Rick
Absolutely.
Walker was uh, got to think this was my sophomore year, I think, and I think it was me and Rick Walker. I was the corner, he was the safety on one side, and then you had the seniors, Mario, and I think Mario and Steve Russell, and we did. Never forget, we used to always say we cannot let them beat us. Like if they're gonna do anything, they're gonna have to do it over there, not over here. But we was the young pups trying to figure it out. So uh, but we held our own. Man. We had held our own during that time. So I made sure I wanted, because he was my running mate that year, and we leaned on each other during that sophomore year for sure.
He was definitely instrumental in me just getting my initial footing because, I coming into that system, it was so different than what they expected at the high school level, and just his intelligence and the way that he could demonstrate and model and put you in the right position. He knew everything that everybody was doing and where
Mhm.
they were supposed to be, and he helped me a lot in getting the chance to be out there and develop earlier on than I might have without him.
Mhm.
Um, so, kind of what I'm um, asking is, from your vantage point, you play with four Hall of Fame level guys, and then what would be the latter half of your career where you're the leader and the more experienced person in the group. How do you compare those two sets of defensive backfield groups, and what's similar about those two groups and what's different in your opinion about those two groups?
Hmm. What's similar and what's different? With that, hmm.
And I'll just say while you're thinking,
Question.
only
Hmm.
only one of those groups has a
Well,
PSAC West championship. So So I'll just let you kind of chew on that.
Well,
And you can go from there.
you kind of stole that. I would say, of course, my latter years was better. And to be honest and be transparent with you, part of that had to do not just with it had to do with Coach E, man. Like Coach E was bringing NFL type schemes to the table, and would always put us in great positions to succeed. We never went into a game not knowing, um, and I hated losing to IUP. Like, and I felt like those early years, we'd get to a certain point, it would we would fold. I hate to say it, but we just couldn't get over that hump. I think Coach E put some dog in us and a scheme in us, and we believed. Like I remember our senior year, they quoted me in a paper about us playing against IUP, and I'll never forget. They said, "So what do you think about this matchup? You guys have lost to them 3 out of the last 4 years or whatever." Um, and I said, "Hey, we I was like, we haven't lost to a Division 2 team all year, and we're not going to start with them. The only loss we had at the time was against, I think, Appalachian State, and I was like, and we're not going to start with them. I knew we had the team to beat them, uh, not just because of the personnel, but you had some hungry people who had seen us lose every year, and we was ready, man. So I'ma always lean on those former years. Plus, we got a ring. Like we we got a ring, man. I hadn't won a championship since high school. Like, what are you can't beat that, man. Like I'm gonna always choose winning, man, and that squad, man. It was so much to that, from the coaching to the team, man. It's a great squad.
What are some of your fond memories in terms of uh, the different teams that you played against, some of the competition that you faced in terms of your matchups? Who stands out when you think about your time as a college football player?
Who stands out, man? Wow. I can go back to, I think, my freshman year, right? Like I said, I hadn't learned how to really play defensive back, and I'm learning, right? And we went to play the University of Buffalo, and uh, and they had me spinning because I couldn't turn I couldn't turn and run, right? I couldn't turn and run, so it'll be short yardage, man, and I couldn't find the ball. I didn't know how to squeeze the man, none of those things, and we still won the game, but it was horrible. It was a horrible, and I remember after that game, that whole week in practice, Rio, Mike Barnes, would pretty much keep me out there and continue to have me turn and run, playing against. I never forget the wide receiver who actually helped me too, trying to say, like, look, you got to turn it. Dave Austin, I think is his name. He
Ashton.
would Ashton, yeah. He was the one who would hit me with this and go outside, and I couldn't figure it out. And he would kind of help me figure out how to actually be able to turn and run, man. So that was a interesting interesting game, but the support I got in order to get better was amazing from that group. Um, I would think, man, I had a few good games. I had a lot of some really good games, man. I had some player of the week games, uh, like against like Lock Haven, uh, did pretty well in a lot of different games, especially those games. But uh, I think one of the probably memorable games was I think you had him on this show. Uh, what's his name? Coleman? Is it Coleman, right? Yeah, and how
Yeah.
he dominated us I think my junior year, I think it was. And he had like over 200 some yards or something in the snow. I'll never forget that game because it was the coldest game I've ever played in my life. Oh my goodness. And I remember was it Rick Walker? It was someone who was saying, I'm never going, shaking, talking about, I'm never going outside again. I'm never going outside. Man, but that was an amazing game, but that was a tough game. And that dude was, hey, he was putting it on us. He put it on us. But we vowed that next year, like, yeah, that's you coming to our house. That ain't happening like that, brother. So I remember those type of games, man. And those games where you struggle and you get an opportunity to come back to prove yourself again. But I remember the tough losses, man. I think the one game we played against Clarion, and if we would have won that game, we would have went to the play. Oh, that one, or losing to New Haven in the playoffs, and man, like those are the ones that really that sticks with you because we never got past the first round. You know, so yeah, I've had some good games, but the losses are the ones that stuck with me. But the greatest victory, I don't care what no one say, was IUP. I would, hey, and we got the ring. That's probably the greatest victory. I don't care what happened, we won, and we dominated them that game. And for 3 years prior, they dominated us, and so I got a ring to prove it.
When you have a long run of being a competitive athlete and you're competing, you're expressing yourself, you're uh, alleviating some of the demons through this physical activity. Um, you've always been a scholar and an athlete in my time knowing you at least. As you transition out of playing and competing and the real world is awaiting you, how is that transition for you? And, what are the things that you use to unwind from your athletic identity?
Hmm. Well, you got to think, like I said before, my therapy was football, and now it's over, right? And not just that it's over. Also have has a kid, right? And uh, you're graduating from college, and you're trying to figure out who you are as a person. Because your identity has been tied to this, but it also was the way that you was able to release, and now you also have to be a father, and step up and be a parent. It was, I think it was probably tough that first year because you're just trying to figure out exactly what you want to do with your life, and just trying to get any kind of job that's going to allow you to be able to take care uh, your kid. Um, but I think I end up falling into a role that allowed me um, to be able to help people. And once I got into that world, it kind of changed me, where uh, it allowed me to look look at their life, look at my life through their eyes, right? With one of the jobs that I'm talking about is I was an outreach worker on the streets, looking and going to, and working with homeless people. I would go under bridges, under abandoned buildings, you name it, to find people who was chronically homeless and had mental illness. And I'll never forget that uh, where I worked at the time, met a person on the street, asked him, "Hey, do you want to come in for treatment?" He was like, "Oh, sure. You got coffee?" I was like, "Yeah, we do." And bring him in. My supervisor says, "So you got your first client just within a month? That's great." And I'm like, feeling good about myself, right? And he says, he's like, "Do we want services?" I was like, "Yeah, he wants services." He says he's willing to do whatever we were asking him to do. And he's like, "Well, that's not the type of client you need to be looking for." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "You're supposed to be working with clients uh, who don't want services, who are delusional, who are out here talking to themselves, who may have some kind of psychosis, uh, and you have to be able to build a relationship with them uh, and convince them um, to want our services. You're talking about someone who don't want services, but you can tell by looking at them that they need some services." He's like, "Yes, those are the clients you resist. You're supposed to be working with people who are resistant to services." Uh, and I had to figure out what that meant, right? Um, and and what I learned in that job kind of propelled me for my career. Because what I learned you have to do is really meet them where they are and find out exactly what that they need is at that moment, right? Which many times is not housing, many times is not uh, treatment. It might be a cigarette, it might be a blanket, it might be some shoes, right? Until you build that relationship with them, right? And from that relationship, they open up to you to be able to uh, hear what you have to say about other things. And I became really good at being able to do that with people who was mentally ill, but I was able to also see the trauma in them that I had, right? And I wanted to be that person that I wish I would have had as a young person, and so that I found my niche early, man, in that space, which eventually led to a lot of other opportunities that I've had over my career. But finding what you're passionate about early uh, and making it and realizing how you can be really good at this, but you're also impacting people's lives was powerful for me. And that became my new therapy. I put it that way.
As you're finding this talent and discovering, this ability about yourself, and you're doing this at a youthful age when maybe
Yeah.
you hadn't released all that testosterone. What is it about you that cares enough to make a difference in other people's situations, and not take the path of maybe chasing money or glamour
Yeah.
or fun? What is it about you that keeps you in that space of wanting to be an advocate, wanting to
Mhm.
develop programs and create opportunities for what others might view as downtrodden or
Mhm.
um, unsalvageable, or the
Yeah.
less desirables in a community? Why are you so passionate about those things?
Uh, I can uh, go back to again my growing up and seeing trauma firsthand, seeing violence firsthand, and seeing how it can actually impact your life. Uh, just go back a little further. I remember someone asking me, um, like, without having a male in your life and being been into different things, why you never uh, like what kept you trying to achieve and want to do more. And I always tell people that my my why was always my mother, right? I had seen um, growing up the the light go out of her eyes in that domestic violence situation, and how her self-esteem has changed. She had changed as a woman being in that relationship, and I did not. I vowed that I would not be the man to disappoint her. She had already been disappointed enough. So she became my driving force in terms of wanting to achieve. and being able to help people, because I prayed someone would help us when we were going through things, right? And now I'm an adult who is in a space that I can help, and I'm really good at being able to do that. And that sparked it. Like my growing up and seeing it, and having my own trauma growing up was part of it. Uh, but then seeing people improve their lives, going from having nothing to being able to help people get a job, help people get things that change their lives, to the point where you've seen people graduate from schools, get their own businesses because of the little help, the door that you open up for them to improve their lives. Um, so that was it, and I think that my experiences. I don't think we talked about this too. That even after having that job, I think right after that, I eventually uh, developed an emergency shelter for men, really focus on improving their lives, and I'm going back to graduate school, and they asked me what it is I wanted to do. I wanted to create a prison reentry program in my internship, and they asked me why. I was like, because many of the people in my community uh, usually go to prison, and within 6 months of them being released, they back in jail because they don't have the resources. But part of that also was the fact that I had a pops who went to jail for 25 years, right? And somehow that stuck in my head. I wanted to be able to help uh, men and women who was coming home. And I think part of that is because of the fact that I would go into the jails and I would see him, and I would see other people who are going in there, and uh, see kids going in, and seeing hearing the gates closing, and not seeing their parents anymore. I wanted to create an opportunity that when these men and women came home, that they had the resources in place that would prevent them from actually going back to prison or jail. And I created a program that in my early 20s, I guess, that focused on that. And that program is thriving to this day. It's pretty much all over Cuyahoga County where other organizations are doing it. But I think we were some of the first to start that process. And that was just sparked based off of, again, childhood issues, things that you've experienced, and people you've experienced, kind of sparked that idea of trying to create something that can improve the lives of people that um, deserve a chance.
I was there to witness various points of your young adult life. We were roommates for a semester, teammates for 3 seasons while I was in college, and then you've shared moments with me in our post college life and our later adult years. I saw you become a father at 20 odd years old. I met your wife, I've met your sons, I met your daughter, and I can look at the pride that you have. When you're witnessing them accomplish and be great. Um, you know, that complication of relationship of uh, stepfather, not necessarily having the tools to uh, lead and maybe make the right choice at the right time. And then you shared with me that your own biological father, your relationship with him was developed much later in life. you
Yeah.
know um, what does that do in terms of uh, driving you to be a better father for your own children? And can you talk about some of the relationship that you have as a husband and with your individual children, just
Right.
kind of leading them and developing them and helping them navigate their own obstacles and hurdles as they develop?
Right. I want to kind of talk about me meeting my 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 biological father. So at the time, I was probably 35 years old. And at the time, was actually doing a lot of work in going around the state developing military transitional housing programs in Columbus, Cincinnati, Dayton, as well as in Cleveland for military vets. And women are very intuitive, right, and can see like there's something that may be missing, or there's something that you need in your life. And so my wife, being a therapist, she went to Case Western Reserve as well, who actually was part of the reason why I eventually ended up going to Case. Um, but she would talk to me about just life, and your family, and also about your father. Do you ever have any thoughts of ever meeting him and all of that? And I'm like, yeah. And so, as you know, you saw the 50th, how the the work that my wife did around around trying to bring everyone together around that. She's a bulldog when it comes to trying to get information. And so she was able to get my biological father's information. Um, and and I called him, right? And come to find out, he lived in Columbus, Ohio. I was traveling to Columbus, Ohio at that particular time for some meetings or whatever, and we scheduled dinner, right? And we sat down and had a conversation. And I'm 5'10", right? He's 6'4". Right? We were totally. I'm like, oh, okay, like this. Okay, this is different. And so what I learned, again, I'm 35 years old. What I learned from him was that he had been living in Columbus for a long time. That he had went to college on a football scholarship, and he also lived in Cleveland and worked as a social worker for a period of time while I was growing up in Cleveland. And I'm like, I was down the street. You telling me you couldn't you couldn't have came down the street? Uh, and he ended up marrying a lady from Cleveland who eventually ended up. She actually went to, I think he said she went to Glenville, and he moved to Columbus. And I'm like, and then as the conversation went on, he told me about, yeah, I knew you went to, I kind of followed your time in sports and Shaw and all this. So he watched me, right? But you never interacted with me. And I couldn't understand that to save my life. Uh, I'm down here dealing with all this trauma as a kid, and you're telling me my biological father is probably around the corner. Uh, but at the same time, what am I trying to get out of this, right? I just want to know you, just know who you are, and be able to have conversations with you. At this point, I don't really need a father figure, but I do need to know about the man who helped create me. And I want you to know that I uh, appreciate you, uh, even though you hasn't been in my life, but I appreciate you as a man. And we talk. You know what I mean? We talk on a regular basis. But that's a part of my life that was missing, right? Uh, all my life, and to be able to reach out and ask questions, to be able to make your to be just ask questions about the other side of your family that you was missing. So I'm grateful to be able to have those conversations, and he was able to give me something that I didn't have, and that was more information, someone that I could really talk to about different things. And they were young, and I understand all of that. Um, and so fast forward to me, I think by meeting him and being able to, you know, kind of move forward with a relationship with him, I realized with my kids that I would never ever uh, do that. I would never not be in their lives. And so I speak into them. I talk to them every day. I find out what their goals are. I try to guide them towards the things that they want to do in their lives, and make sure they have the best of me. And I try to stay present because, um, again, I'm trying to be the dad that I didn't have, right? And you know, that's just me, man. You know me. I love praising my kids and speaking them up. But dad would get in their behind, make sure they understand what discipline is all about, what hard work is all about, and I praise them when they're doing great, man. And I got 4 great kids, man, and I'm proud, and I can see them being able to move forward to be productive, impactful people in their lives, man. And that's what I'm striving for. I just want them to be successful with whatever they do, uh, and I'm hoping they don't have to go through some of the things that I've been through. So I just pour into them, man, and I stay present.
As I listen to, the phases and the transitions that you've experienced over your lifetime, I get a deeper understanding of what some of the intensity was about. Meeting you when I was 18, transitioning to 19. And, I've told you multiple times, I've always looked at you as a big brother and a leader. Um, and just an impactful person, whether that be as a player, as a student, as a father, as a brother, and then just seeing the path that you're on in terms of your work and the reason why you do that type of work. It just solidifies and reinforces the values and just who you are at your core and what your character has always been about. The theme of our show, it is one more down. And, we always end on that note of this philosophical question. It does not have to be football oriented, sports oriented. It can be, a moment of your choosing. If Martin Williams had one more down to repeat and redo for your life for a moment, what would that be for you? Can you tell me about that?
Hmm, that's a great question. Have one more down. What would that be for me? Um, Ron, I don't think. I don't know. I don't think if I had one more down, I I probably wouldn't accept it. Right. The reason why is I don't think I would be who I am. Right. Like I think that a different play, a different situation could potentially change who I am as a person. Right. Um, and yes, I have gone through a lot in life and overcome a lot. But I think some of those hurdles and barriers that I've been able to overcome uh, has made me who I am, and I'm comfortable who I am. So I wouldn't change anything, man. I'm I'm good. I'm good. You know what I mean? I'm happy. You know. So I wouldn't. I don't think I need a one more down. Right. I think I've done everything that's supposed to happen has happened, and changing that by having one more down to be able to do something different. Nah, I don't. I think it would impact who I am as a person, and I like me. Yep.
I've enjoyed this time that we've had together. You talked and it conjured up so many images of things that I've seen you do. You were a tenacious cornerback, a hard hitter, a vocal leader, a man of action. Um, and then on top of that, when others wasted time pursuing parties, women, you always made sure that you got to your books. And, for you to be in the position that you are today, excelling, thriving, leading, and ever present thinker, and always putting others' hurt and trauma and condition above your own, it's just a tremendous reflection of, the job that your mother did raising you and holding you accountable. Some of the impact that sports and coaching brings, insulating yourself with a myriad of different personality types and allies as you make those different transition points throughout your life. And, the end result is a complete, satisfied man that is able to guide your next generation of Williams to that next promised land and those next goals. I'm full listening to you today, man, because just on a surface level, so many relationships could just be one dimensional and end off of sports, but you've actually been a person that makes yourself available. And when we have those short times to just reconnect and have a conversation and talk as men, I live for those, because a lot of my network has moved out of Ohio. So I don't need any new people in my life, and I'm thankful and grateful for those that I've come across paths with. And I just enjoy sitting back, being a witness to others' achievement and others' greatness, man. So thank you very much for being you. Thank you very much for coming on today, and thank you for adding value to my platform.
Man, like I said, we've been talking about this for a while, man. And hey, if you need me, you can always call me, man, and I'm gonna be there for you. And hey, I'll be seeing you in probably January or February. I'll be coming to your town, so we'll definitely hook up, man. But I appreciate you having me on your platform, and we're gonna continue to do what we've been doing. So appreciate it.